And good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Today is Thursday, the 20th of February, or Carnival Thursday, as some of you may know it. Just 4 more days until Carnival, and the festivities are in full swing. I am your host, Felicia Holder. Well, your co host, you can say. I host on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and together with our deputy political leader, Anthony Defoe, we co host on a Friday. Now, today, Thursday, we have a lot of things to discuss, one of them being the top headline story, which is the Lake Asphalt of Trinidad and Tobago, which the last time that I saw you, which was on Tuesday, that day there was actually a protest staged by the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union, which is the trade union for the Lake Asphalt of Trinidad and Tobago company. Now, these workers staged a protest because they are of the belief, again, which was reinforced by the branch president, um, Rayburn Noble. He told the protesting workers, sorry, that it was Wiggins, who is the CEO of the company, that they were planning to lay off workers after Carnival, meaning they had no money to pay salaries after Carnival. Now, the reason this is our top story today, it's because Lake Asphalt of Trinidad and Tobago, or as we know it, the Pitch Lake, has been a topic of concern for the Progressive Empowerment Party in particular. More so because there's a lot of ambiguity surrounding the Pitch Lake. There's a lot of uncertainty as to whether the money being made by the Pitch Lake, well, firstly, how much money is being made by the Pitch Lake? Who are the beneficiaries of the money made by the Pitch Lake? Is it us here in Trinidad and Tobago, or is it someone else? Now, there are a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding it, whether when we got independence that the Queen still held claim to the Pitch Lake, whether or not we were selling our pitch to countries like China and other places in Europe, or just whether or not we even owned the Pitch Lake at all. So I'm gonna cut a video here that I think was very interesting because, anyway, you'll see it. Cut into that video now.
On assignment, we sometimes find out about remarkable things we never knew existed. That's what happened to Scott Thuman and crew on a recent trip to Trinidad and Tobago. They came across an amazing natural wonder that you may have encountered yourself without even knowing it.
At first glance, you're not really sure what you're even seeing. It looks like an unfinished parking lot, about 100 acres and mostly barren, minus a stray dog and the occasional tour group. Though what we're walking on, locals boast, is the eighth wonder of the world. Called Pitch Lake, this semi-hardened pool of asphalt is the largest of its kind on the planet.
It's still a natural wonder because nowhere in the world they will find pitch in a solid state. And nowhere other way in the world they could find a pitch lake that you could walk on it and show people some of the artifacts.
The bits that bubble up from beneath are fascinating, from trees dating back thousands of years to a giant sloth's rib and a mastodon's tooth. But the tar, emitting gas you can actually light on fire, and texture like memory foam, is the real spectacle here. Well, there's kind of a spongy feel to the surface when you're walking on it. Only a few inches down is where you realize how everything is basically liquid with a pungent, noticeable odor. In 1595, natives showed British explorer Sir Walter Raleigh Pitch Lake while on his search for El Dorado, the city of gold. Using this sticky substance to caulk leaks on his ship, the moment was immortalized later on a postage stamp. The fame was followed by industry. But they'll take this, they'll heat this up.
This will boil down, and as they boil it for 18 hours and it comes to a molten substance, then it is strained to extract things like this.
So then they're getting out these pieces of wood like this,
Yes.
like bits of tree, and brought up as fast as they can churn it out. Over the years, some 10 million tons. China, Germany, and Brazil, top customers. How much money do they make every year out of selling?
That's a good question. I can't really answer that one.
It's likely a lot. The pitch is about 250 feet deep and seems almost endless. It's been spread from the Lincoln Tunnel to LaGuardia's tarmac, some of Washington, D.C.'s first roads, and the one leading to London's Buckingham Palace. Tell me what you think of this place.
It's fantastic. I have come here 4 times. The place is so calm, the water is nice.
Do we think it's fascinating that some of this ends up in Washington?
It is like a blessing that we can bless other countries with our natural resources that we have right here in Trinidad. Okay.
Well, now some of the roads right leading up to this could use it, couldn't they?
Yeah. Oh gosh, don't talk about it. Yeah. Plenty.
Why are you sending it all to us? You need it on the road right there.
Yeah. They're working on it.
Yeah.
They're hardly worried. This obscure, lesser-known spot on the map won't dry up anytime soon. Scientists say it should keep on paving the world's highways for another 400 years. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman in Trinidad.
Looking for gold and finding something maybe almost as valuable. We're back with a look at what's ahead next week, right after this.
As you would have seen from that video, the Pitch Lake of Trinidad and Tobago is acclaimed unofficially or officially as one of the 8th wonder of the world, and it has rightfully so earned that title because based on what we saw in that video, our pitch is being used all across the world and it is expected to be used at least for another 400 years. Now, based on the fact that our pitch lake is so notorious, it's a wonder that we are facing so many difficulties here back in Trinidad and Tobago with our own pitch, and just one of them being just the very roads themselves that we have to deal with. And it was a sad proclamation, you can say, when the interviewer can himself note that as much as our pitch was being used around the world, that right here in Trinidad, actually the road leading up to La Brea to the pitch lake was one of the worst that he had experienced. What was also kind of sad to note was the residents being interviewed, or the Trinbagonians being interviewed in that particular piece, who seem to hold on to the fact that it will fix, but they have hope that it will happen. And I mean, I want to say that at this point, if we as Trinbagonians have not realized that if they wanted to fix it, it would have been done, then I don't know what we're really thinking, because to have our pitch being used all over the world, yet right here in Trinidad and Tobago, and I mean, we say it a lot, but the irony is just too real at times when you consider just how bad our roads are here. But what I want to touch on most importantly is, where is that money going? Because based on this article that I'm reading here in the Newsday, the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union, CGWTU, they were protesting because the claims are that the LATT, which is the Lake Asphalt of Trinidad and Tobago, is likely to be shut down since its operating capital had been depleted. Again, it's kind of crazy to imagine that our operating capital has been depleted to such a large degree that the 8th wonder of the world, paving roads all across the planet, is not able to sustain itself, so that workers are in fear of their jobs. Now, this is a company that every budget we ask the same question: where is the money? Not where is the money going, but how much money are we making from the pitch lake? Actually, the interviewer, he asked his tour guide that we saw in the video, how much money is the pitch lake making, and he himself laughed it off. But it's a very serious, real and pertinent question, because there's nowhere on our books within the past couple of years that we can see a revenue stream. I mean, I'm hearing figures here that the last board of directors met the company with over 200 million US dollars in operating capital, and that was about 5 years ago. However, operating capital and revenue are two different things. We are saying that we have been paving roads across the globe, but we have no record or no accounting of how much money we have and will be making to do that. We're also being told through that video that we have enough pitch to pave another 400 years. So who are the people responsible for breaking this company? I have to say breaking this company, because a company that sounds so profitable shouldn't be doing this poorly. And it's a sad thing that it's such a blessing to others across the globe, but for us, we are not experiencing that. And we're reading in this article $275 million. Sorry, that's how much the board was met with back in 2016. They had over $275 million in operating capital, US dollars. And today they are saying they are not sure they can make wages come March. Now the title of the article is Lake Asphalt, no plans to close, lay off workers. We have heard this before. We have heard that Petrotrin wasn't going to close. We have heard that other companies in the Point Lisa estate were not going to close. Yet we have seen several layoffs happening within the past 2-3 years, actually within the past 5 years, as we as an economy continue to decline. And I asked myself this question: are we out of a recession? And I asked that question because when you look around you, there are ads running on the radio that start with, "in these tough economic times," and that doesn't sound like a country that is out of a recession. You also have businesses being closed, those who can't access foreign exchange. We have companies packing up and going back home, saying that they can't. Multinational companies that is saying that they don't have enough revenue, enough access to US to operate the way they would like to. And generally you get the sense that Trinidad is still in a deep we're clearly in a recession still, if you can have a national jewel like Lake Asphalt being threatened with a closure. Now, some are saying it's not going to happen, some are saying it is going to happen. Who do you believe at this point? We don't know. Who did we believe when we heard the rumors about Petrotrin? There was nobody to believe. We had to actually see it for ourselves when the Prime Minister shut down the company back in 2018. I'm not sure if this is going to be the same fate of Lake Asphalt, but it would be really sad given the fact that this company is clearly a profitable one. And the fact that it is profitable and it is not being made profitable, or the money is not being seen, the income or the revenue is not being communicated in a budget reading. It's the citizens themselves can't tell you how much money we're making off of the pitch lake. The fact that this is not happening is a telltale sign of politics. It's a telltale sign of poor management or mismanagement, you can say. Calls to the energy minister have gone unanswered, which is nothing new. However, me as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, a stakeholder of 1.4 million other stakeholders, I want to know where the money for my national asset is going. I want to know who were the people in charge of running it into the ground. I say running it into the ground because yes, it is weak. Yes, it is still there. Yes, we have pitch for 400 years again to come. But who is mismanaging the money to the point that workers have to strike for fear of job cuts or the company being closed down? Who is this board that was appointed back in 2016, which would indicate it was appointed under a People's National Movement government? And I'm assuming, and I would like to think that the board appointees, at least some of them, were or are members of the People's National Movement. Who are these people responsible for mismanaging the Pitch Lake to such a state where we are now threatened with a looming closure. That's a story that is, in my opinion, a very sad one to start off the morning with, but it is our sad reality in Trinidad and Tobago right now, where our national assets, everything that we own, is facing a threat by what has been years of mismanagement. And I don't want to believe that the company is being looted, but I can't see anything else. I can't see any other way to describe a company that is so profitable doing so badly. Anyway, on to the next story of the morning. Police Commissioner Gary Griffiths is saying that gunmen are getting bail to kill again. That's the story ran by the Daily Express yesterday on February the 19th, where he is lamenting the fact that people are being held for guns and ammunition. However, they are being allowed back onto the street because of the fact that we don't have any amendments to the Bail Act to deal with persons. His idea is that we incarcerate or we deny them bail for at least 120 days. Now, I love Gary Griffith. I think he is the best thing since sliced bread. When people call him Super Gary, I agree. I mean, as much as he's just doing his job, he is still a breath of fresh air to Trinidad and Tobago and to operating as we know it in Trinidad and Tobago. Before Gary Griffith, we never got the sense that the police service was working as it should. We never got the sense that we actually had someone who knew what they were doing. And this is not to knock the others, but I mean, I have to knock you, because before Gary Griffith, whether it's great PR or whether he's just really doing his job, which I would like to believe the latter, before him, there was a sense of hopelessness in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the police commissioner is not the sole, lone and only savior of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, there are other arms that have to work, especially in national security. So the Coast Guards, even our immigrations department, they all work hand in hand in ensuring that we have proper national security. So like I was saying, I agree with Gary in a lot of instances. However, the amendments to the Bail Act is one that I don't completely agree with. I do agree that criminals shouldn't, especially on offenses like guns and ammunition, I agree that the bail shouldn't be less than the bail for committing fraud. Guns and ammunition is what is used to kill people. Of our murders last year, 541, over 400 of those were committed with guns. And the fact that criminals are allowed off, a Valencia man was fined a total of $16,000. That's $10,000 for the gun and $6,000 for the ammunition that he had. And he was allowed 90 days to pay or face hard labor. Now, this is where I have to agree with Gary. That seems to me a weapon used to kill, and not just kill, but commit mass killings, because one gun can kill, in essence, depending on how much ammunition you have, whether you get caught, whether the gun gets confiscated or not. One gun can be used to kill hundreds of people. And the fact that $16,000 can get you off on an offense like that, it is concerning. And I have to agree with Gary Griffith there that we are allowing criminals to get back on the streets. Because if I was a drug lord and I am running guns in the hundreds and I have various blocks throughout Trinidad and Tobago I employ, because this is, believe it or not, these drug men and drug lords run their business, and they call it a business, as an empire, and they consider themselves entrepreneurs. I have had the opportunity to speak to an ex-convict, and they consider themselves an empire. I don't know if anybody knows the show Narcos on I believe it's Netflix. There's another one, Ozark, which I started watching last year, where they deal with washing money. And these criminals, they see themselves as legitimate or illegitimate businessmen. And the way they run their empire is so that they have multiple sources of income coming in from multiple blocks, you can see. And if I was the head of one of these empires, I would ensure that, or definitely have men on various parts of Trinidad doing my dirty work. And I would assume that I would have enough money so that $16,000 fine for having a gun would be small money. And remember, these guys are dealing with drugs and guns and dirty money. So that a $16,000 charge in reality is exactly that, a slap on the wrist. And were I don't want to put myself in that situation, but I would like to assume that understanding our laws and understanding, because this is not their first time doing it, knowing this, I would also have a contingency plan. So on every gun, I would probably know that were I to be arrested for this, or were one of my men to be arrested for this, I need to set aside some insurance money, as you can see. And when I say insurance money, like I say, the men and women dealing with the drugs and ammunition trade, they obviously have to think contingency, and they have to think business plan. So I agree with Gary Griffith here that of the 1,457 repeat offenders, I would like to assume that $16,000 is nothing for them. So I agree with him there that there needs to be stricter laws. Well, in his case, the bail amendment, an amendment to the Bail Act, to put to give some, I don't want to say leverage is not the word, but there should be some kind of fear with owning a gun. Right now, there's no fear. You have a gun. I live Belmont, and people are asking me which parts of Belmont. I say I live right before the bad part starts. And I don't like to use that word bad part, but further up the hills that you go, you hear the gunshots ever so often. And these men, they are clearly not, they don't have any fear, because you can hear gunshots. I mean, it's not regular, but you can hear gunshots sometimes during the day. I remember for New Year's Day, that's how gunmen celebrate New Year's. You hear gunshots ringing out, because it's the one time of the year where you can ask the question, are those gunshots or is that fireworks? And of the 1,457 repeat offenders, I have to assume that these men are very much aware of the fact that they can be held with these firearms. However, where Gary and I disagree, or where I don't see eye to eye with him, is that extending the bail time is not the sole and only answer. Now, I understand his approach. As the Commissioner of Police, his job is to enforce the law. So his job is to hold the criminals and keep them off of the streets of Trinidad and Tobago. But I don't think denying people bail for 120 days is the answer. And while it may seem in the short term to work, it is also to me the equivalent of taking a rice strainer to dip water out of a flowing river. We're going to catch some, but we're still going to have a lot more coming into the system, because every year, every month, every time we have a child failing out of school with no other option, 9 out of 10, they're going to look for something else to do. And whether it's not robbing, it's killing, it's murdering. And this is an issue that the Commissioner of Police is wanting to address from a enforcement and a policing point of view. I see he's calling for the judiciary to do their job as well, because what he thinks is a soft approach. I agree, we need to strengthen and toughen up our approach to dealing with criminals. But like I said, with that rice strainer example, We can't just be locking up criminals and holding them indefinitely as a way to deal with crime. Again, not knocking Gary at all. From his point, I get where keeping the criminals responsible for crime off of the street would seem like the answer. But it's similar to the SOE, where in that period we had the lowest amount of crime happening. Of course, if you have the criminals locked up, they can't commit the crime. But what about dealing with the root cause? And that is what I wanted to talk about actually, because the root cause of crime is not guns. Well, it's one of the causes of crime, because guns and weapons are used to commit crime. But where are we getting these guns from? The Progressive Empowerment Party talks all the time about securing our borders. Our borders are so porous that a man could just drive up the Caroni River with a boatload of guns and ammunition, and there's no way to trace or track. We have a Coast Guard that complains that they have no gas for their boats. And so the question is raised, who and what is being used to patrol our borders? We say secure our borders. The Prime Minister complained that we had over 30,000 illegal weapons back in 2017, yet to this day, what has been done to change that? Where have those 30,000 illegal firearms ended up? We don't hear about them being melted. We don't hear, are they being returned back onto the streets? We don't know. But yes, we need stronger laws so that the criminals are afraid. But we also need to make it hard for the criminals to access these weapons and these items being used to commit crime. It needs to definitely be something that they're afraid of. As it is right now, $16,000 bail is nothing to be afraid of when you're running a multi-million-dollar empire. But we also need to approach this holistically. We need to secure our borders. We need to address poverty, which is one of the drivers for crime. I spoke earlier about the young child failing out of school, who has no other option, who has no hope, who has no opportunity. We need to make it so that crime is the last resort. I don't think crime is anybody's first resort. But in a country like Trinidad and Tobago, where we have so little hope and opportunity, I can understand where and why the youths turn to crime and to criminality. But a Progressive Empowerment Party government, we talk not just securing the borders, but addressing the root cause of poverty, of crime, which is poverty, making home ownership available, rebuilding the communities, and by extension, rebuilding the nation. So, Gary, while you and I see eye to eye on certain aspects, definitely there is some politics involved, and put a Progressive Empowerment Party government in office, and we will work with you to clean up the streets. We will work with you to ensure that the judiciary and laws are amended so that we don't have criminals just repeating offenses and coming back and going out in the streets and killing again. But we would also address all of the other problems that are the reason why we have crime. So it's 6:30, 6:31. We're going to take a quick break and come back. We have some things to talk about, including mental health. And I don't think we talk about that enough in Trinidad and Tobago, but it definitely deserves some mentioning, particularly after some very peculiar events that happened this week. We will be right back.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber, and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems, including cameras, alarms, and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Good day, Trinidad and Tobago. I am Philip Edward Alexander, and I thought that we should have an actual factual conversation about our situation and circumstances as a nation. In our brief 57-year history, we've moved from the third wealthiest nation in the Western world to broke. How broke? The Minister of Finance says he has difficulty paying public servants. How rich were we? After the United States and Canada, we were richer than Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Argentina, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Bermuda, Bolivia, Brazil. We've been richer than the British Virgin Islands, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba. This Trinidad and Tobago was the third wealthiest nation in the Western world. Besides the United States of America and Canada, we were richer than Dominica, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador. We had more money than Grenada, Guatemala, Guyana, Haiti, Honduras, and Jamaica. We were richer than Montserrat, Netherlands Antilles, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, St. Kitts and Nevis. As the third wealthiest nation in the Western world, we were ahead of St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, Turks and Caicos, Uruguay, and Venezuela. Now, we're broke. In our brief 57-year history, we've gone from being wealthier than all of these countries to broke. How broke? Our Minister of Finance cannot find the money to finance our budgets. We're engaging in something called deficit financing, which means we're running the country on credit. We can't find the money to pay our public servants, and it's getting worse and worse by the day. So what happened in our brief 57 years to all that money? Where is our money? Disguised as projects and contracts, governments from Williams to Rowley have overseen the looting of this country. We've moved in 57 short years from being the third wealthiest nation in the Western world to being broke and in debt. We owe China, we owe the IDB, we owe the local banks, we must pay OY dilemmas, we owe everybody. We've moved from being the third wealthiest nation in the Western world after the United States and Canada to being broke and in debt. Where's our money? Why can't we account for simple accounting of our money? Why is it so difficult? There are companies in this world with more employees than we have people. Walmart has 2.3 million employees. McDonald's has 1.9 million employees. India Railways has 1.4 million. How do these companies manage their accounts and we can't manage ours? Some of these companies are far-flung all around the world. Why can't we, this dot in the sea, manage our accounts? Why can't the Auditor General, the Minister of Finance, the Central Bank Governor, and all of the above come to Trinidad and Tobago at the end of each 12-month cycle and say, our income was X, our expenditure was Y, leaving a net profit or loss of Z? And again, the question that this video wants to ask and wants to get you to ask is a simple one. We've had Eric Williams, George Chambers, Arthur Napoleon, Raymond Robinson, Patrick Manning, Basdeo Panday, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and now Keith Rowley. And the one common thread for all of those governments is we've lost money every single time. There is a rogues gallery of people who have been involved at the highest level of all of those governments. Political supporters of the two main sides, the Red Party and the Yellow Party, can shout expletives at each other and name names of red bandits and yellow bandits without seeing the irony that we are all losing every time. In 57 short years, we've gone from being the third wealthiest nation in the Western world to a land where nothing works. Blood runs in our streets like water. We argue about, was it 541 who died or 542? And instead of feeling sorrow and misery at our condition, we're arguing about which of the yellow side or the red side had more murders. We are an insane little nation. The question we need to be asking, regardless of which side of the political divide you sit on, 57 years later, if we were the third wealthiest nation in the Western Hemisphere, where's our money? I'm Philip Edward Alexander. And this video has been a little bit more than 3 minutes asking a very important question that you and every citizen of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, no matter where you find yourself in the world, need to be asking. 57 years later, where is our money? Good day, Trinidad and Tobago. I am Philip.
And we are back. And over the break, you would have seen that "Where is our money going" video. Just that, again, the question of the day while we question where is our money going with the Pitch Lake. Again, something we all would like to know, and given chance of office, I swear to you, that's one of the first things I particularly would want to take as a first. Definitely want to go down that road to find out where and how much money we have been making in the past couple decades with our Pitch Lake, and how much we can make, because I think it is a national jewel that we have severely neglected. And neglected in this term, well, in terms of us as citizens, we have not pressured. I don't think we have applied enough pressure on our governments, past and present, to answer that very pertinent question. But like I said, put a Progressive Empowerment Party government into office, and we will get those questions answered. Before I went to the break, I said we will touch on mental health, because the first thing I saw when I opened Facebook yesterday, and I don't know how many of you would have seen this story of the man who climbed the Arima Dial, saying that his wife cheated on him, or his wife horned him, according to him, and I guess he was threatening suicide. I'm not sure. That's what the article or the reports were claiming to say. However, the first thing I noticed when I saw where he, or how far he reached, was that fall or that jump, you can see, wasn't much to cause damage. And maybe he might have sustained a broken ankle, maybe a broken wrist or something like that, but it wasn't high enough to, I guess, cause him to die, you can say. And so after my first thought, which was, okay, so obviously my first thought was, is this a prank? Because I saw him there and he was moving from side to side. I actually saw some memes, added some music to what he was doing, and it seemed funny at the point. I mean, if you weren't digging deeper and going to the root cause of it. However, I'm not sure how we're supposed to take this story. Thankfully the man came down. I mean, it would have caused, I guess, some traffic and a spectacle yesterday in Arima. But given how far and how high he climbed, and just his movements while he was on top of the pool, I have to raise the question, or I'm sure many others have raised the question, was this man fully up there? And when I say fully up there, is he somebody that is right in his mind? Because again, if you're looking to commit suicide, that's not really where you would go, and it's not, you would go higher than that, I would say. I mean, I'm not trying to make it easier, not make it easy. I'm not trying to give people ideas on how they can kill themselves. Definitely not about that at all. But his movements and his behavior suggested and seemed to me that something wasn't really right up there. And like I said, the first reaction is to laugh and joke. Oh God, look, he up there, his wife wanting him. But I think there's a deeper issue that we need to address as a nation, though, because I mean, we tend to see what we call madmen dancing in the road and picking up bottles and pelting them. But I wanted to raise this issue because we joke a lot about these things, but I don't think we pay enough attention to mental health in this country. And we have a lot of people who suffer from mental illnesses that either go untreated, or we make jokes of them, or we lock them up in the madhouse and they don't receive the kind of treatment that they need. And I think about what a man like that in a developed nation may have faced. Definitely, I'm not sure where he is today, but I would like to believe that somebody from social services would have contacted him, that some units of the police service would have sat with him to find out what was going on. Or was he just left to come down and walk away? I don't know. But I raise this issue because I believe mental health is being neglected, severely neglected. Last year we had that instance of the prisoners, you can say, or people who were sent by their families for treatment in this facility, this hospice, and a raid by the police commissioner, well, the police led by the police commissioner, showed people being tied in chains in cages, and the people who ran the facility, they defended their actions, saying that this was a form of therapy and that they weren't mistreating the people. But nowhere else in the world except in horror movies have I ever seen people chained and locked up in cages. And how we treat our people, especially people the most vulnerable, those who may face and have mental issues, it says a lot about us as a society. And I really believe that we need to pay closer attention to this. I believe that should we, or will we, or if we want to move to developed world status, dealing with our mental health patients and cases like depression, which people brush off so easily. When you say depressed here, people say, oh God, what are you sad for? And it's true, it's how they treat people who have illnesses that you can't physically see. But illnesses of the mind is also as important or just as detrimental as cancer or HIV or the coronavirus. Is something that we have to pay attention to, because we live in a world where stress is not getting easier, and we are exposed to more imagery and negative imagery than, say, somebody from 50 years ago. We have access to social media. We are connected in ways that we weren't connected before, and it does take a toll on the psyche. I mean, for me, sometimes, even preparing for this show, when you're reading through all of the news articles, you feel exhausted after a while, because you go through so many levels and series of depressing stories and depressing comments that it takes a toll on you. And I mean, for those who may already have some kind of mental illness, it's not going to make it any better. So while addressing mental illness, we have to also, of course, address the state of our healthcare, because it is a part and an extension of our healthcare, which we know is in a deplorable condition here in Trinidad and Tobago. Again, should a Progressive Empowerment Party government come into office, people with mental health issues will be treated just as any other citizen. That man yesterday would have undergone a thorough psych evaluation. Again, I don't know where he is today, but the fact that there has not been a follow-up story, or at least none that I have heard of, tells a lot. And I'm not sure where he is, if he was even incarcerated, if he was released back into the system. I don't know if we can expect to hear from him again, but his actions definitely point to something more serious, and we as citizens, we need to not just joke about these things and realize that mental health and awareness about mental health is a real thing, and as a nation, it's something that we definitely need to address. Our next story flows into this one. It doesn't address mental health, but it does address domestic violence and domestic abuse. The man who climbed the dial yesterday, he said his wife was honing him. This on Tuesday, we had a police officer actually shooting another police officer, a woman police officer, twice in her chest. She's now warded in critical condition. I do want to read what caused this. An argument over text message is believed to be the trigger for a police sergeant shooting a woman at her home on Tuesday night. Nicolette Prasad, who is also a police officer, was shot twice in the chest. She is warded in critical condition. The suspected shooter was arrested by his colleagues. It happened around midnight at the house of Mohis Road, Penal. The couple work in the Southern Police Division. Apparently, they attended a carnival fete together, and they began to argue when they got home, and he pulled out his service revolver and shot her twice in her chest. Now, today's the 20th of February, and this case of domestic violence is probably the 5th, 6th, or maybe even the 7th. I can't remember the number, but since the year started, we have had a number of cases of violence against women. We have had cases of violence against children. In that very sad case that happened last week Sunday with the father who beat his daughter to death apparently, and then hung himself. And I'm raising this not just because it is a news story, but because the Progressive Empowerment Party, the women's arm of the party, led by Limma McLeod Wilkinson and Hadassah, they have been doing a lot of work in the past couple days and weeks concerning domestic violence. I actually sat on a panel on domestic violence back in January, and I was the only female on that panel, and we were getting all kind of reasons for domestic violence and all kind of solutions of what we should do, but I don't think anybody had addressed the real cause of violence, which is, and I say violence because domestic violence, violence against children, bullying, all of these forms of violence, it just boils down to violence. And we are a violent society when you look at it. Crime is another form of violence, and you're seeing the violence, it seems to be on a rise, on an increase. And in this case of the woman, I mean, I really hope that she pulls out of it, because to lose your life, pretty young woman, to use your life over what may have been an argument in the heat of the moment is a really sad way to go. Because I mean, this is another one of our law enforcement officers who would have, of course, on her own, been working to serve and protect Trinidad and Tobago, and for her to lose her life over this would be a real tragedy. But what is also a tragedy is our approach and the way we deal with violence and crime and domestic violence in this country. We're not addressing it from, again, the root cause. And we always talk root causes and reasons, because it's not enough to read a story and talk about violence is a problem in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why, and this is where this program will differ from any other morning program that you may tune into, because we don't just talk the issues, we talk solutions to these issues as well. One of these solutions, definitely men and women, because I believe on both sides of the spectrum we have people who are unable to deal with and express their emotions, and men in particular, someone said that men, they're not good with rejection, and I asked, is that something that they're born with, or is that something that they grew up with? And I believe that men are taught from very young to stifle their emotions. Crying, a man crying or a boy crying is, chin up, don't cry, wipe away your tears. Crying is seen as weak for men when it shouldn't be like that. Crying is a human emotion. It's not a female emotion. It's not a child's emotion. It is a human emotion, and it's an emotion that is part of being a human being. It is part of expressing feelings of anger. It's part of expressing feelings of sadness. Crying is even associated with happy. There's happy tears. I have expressed happy tears before in my life, but for men in particular, and in a society that is so very patriarchal like Trinidad and Tobago is, we tend to look at crying and expressing of emotions as weak, and in doing so we stifle a lot of men, we stifle a lot of young boys. I have heard parents tell their male children, stop crying, and tears on for boys. And when we suppress and stifle emotions like that, people are not able to develop properly emotionally. And when you can't express your anger in one way, you tend to find them expressing their anger and their sadness and their hurt feelings through other ways, through their hands, through violence, through picking up an instrument, because crying and internalizing is not manly. And we as a society, I believe, we really need to change that way of thinking and move away from it, because men, just like women, have feelings too. And this is me in no way, and I would like to underscore that this is me in no way picking up or making excuses for this man shooting his wife or his girlfriend. Definitely not. There's no excuse under the sun for that. But as children, though, we need to look at how we raise our men. We need to look at how much attention we're paying to their own emotional development and their emotional well-being. We also need to address the causes and the root cause of violence in our country, which in some cases, and in a lot of cases, I can't say it's the case for this couple. I mean, this seems to be clearly a case of him not being able to express his emotions and taking it out through violence. But poverty is another cause of violence in this country, and we spoke about it earlier when we mentioned the bail amendment that Gary Griffith is pushing for, and why we have criminals in this country. Violence and crime against each other is another form of, or another way, I would say the root cause of that, is poverty in some cases. And we have to address that root cause. We have to address the many causes behind violence in our country. And I mean, I don't want to go on too much on this story because it's really sad, but I do hope that, I hope that she pulls out of it. Again, a Progressive Empowerment Party government would ensure that social services and departments in the Ministry of Social Development are fortified and strong enough to deal with cases of domestic violence. We have many women and men, especially men, because people don't see men as strong. Like I said earlier, people see men as the strong ones, but there are cases of women hitting and abusing men too. But we have cases of them reporting it, and particularly men, it's being laughed off. They're not taking it seriously again until we reached a place where, like this WPC, the person was shot or we have a victim of crime. At around 7 o'clock, we're supposed to have Akil Camps joining us. He joined me on Tuesday. He's supposed to come back and do some follow-up on some of the things that we discussed. But before, we have about 3 minutes until the hour. There is something that I wanted to raise, which is no money for culture. And that's my title for it. But I was reading an article this morning that the Calypso events, all of the Calypso events in Tobago have been cancelled. And I specifically wanted to raise this point because we are in the middle or nearing the end of the carnival season, and in all of the excitement and the melee, today's beach house and a couple other fetes, I don't think people are paying attention to how the state of the economy is impacting our culture itself. I mean, there are those fetes that are going on, but there are actually also cases of people saying that they're seeing fewer attendance in some fetes. I don't know how true that is. I have not been to many. I just went to one last week by someone asked me to go last minute. But there was also a case, I believe back in January, where the St. James Parade was under threat, again citing no money, and I believe the Education Ministry would have swooped in at that point and agreed to host or pay for the show. I raise this point because it's easy to get distracted and caught up in all of the hype and the excitement right now of Carnival. But in doing so, we have to see and pay attention to the fact that, and these small little things, these small, when I say small, many people may not take part in the parade festivals. Tobago is, for some people, behind, out of sight, so something like them having to cancel their carnival and their calypso festivals may not impact anybody. I mean, for some it's not something to pay attention to, but it is a indictment, and it does tell a story of where the state and how the country is right now. The fact that we have to be canceling cultural events, and I'm sorry that it has to be happening to Tobago, and I really hope some good Samaritan, some rich businessman can swoop in and save the day, but it does seem uncertain. We may not take it seriously, but we need to pay attention to the way this country is being run. We need to pay attention to these things, these events that are being cancelled, because it is a telltale sign of the fact that our economy is not doing as well as some may like us to believe it is doing. And like Lake Asphalt that we discussed earlier in the program, we are facing a situation where the revenue in this country, we are unable to say for certain how it is being spent. I mean, we had this week public servants marching for a salary increase, and we have cases of some public servants and some arms of state claiming that they're not getting paid, or they're getting paid late. Even with the Lake Asphalt workers who believe that they may not have a job come after Carnival. We have to pay attention to these things, because yes, we're being told that the recession is over, but those who feel it know it. And looking around at all of these cases, all of these instances of not having money or businesses closing down, clearly our economy is doing much worse than they would like us to believe. It is 7:01. I'm going to take a quick break and come back with my co-host Akil Camps, and we will talk some more topics. We'll be back.
Hey, there we go. What is? Check it out. 9 o'clock in the morning. 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 9 o'clock on the dot, and you can't reach the walk. Why? There's a flood on the road. 9 o'clock on the dot. You're in the same spot. Why? Organized crime. This organized crime. Everywhere you turn, crime and more crime. White collar crime, blue collar crime, no collar crime. We running out of time. No food in the pot. Why? Turn on the main road. Turn on the main road. 9 o'clock in the day. You can't see your way. Why? Traffic on the highway. Traffic on the highway. 9 o'clock on the dot. No food in the pot. Bills, bills, bills and more bills. Pills, pills, pills and more pills. Nothing to work. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work. $3 trillion spent, nothing to show. That's how it go in a land named Trinbago. Check this. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work. Public health fail, public works fail, local government fail, central government fail. Tears, tears, tears. 57 years. Prayers, prayers, prayers. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work. No bread in the kitchen, no gas in the car, no water in the pipe. Everybody by the bar. Hole in the pavement, hole in your shoe, hole in your wallet. There's only holes for you. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work. Human rights and civil liberties are the cornerstone of democracy. It is no stretch to say in Trinidad and Tobago, our justice system has challenged that notion. We have people in this country languishing in prison for years, sometimes decades more than they would have been if they had already been convicted of the offense and given the maximum sentence the law allows. They are citizens of this country walking around with the anxiety of charges over their heads, again for years and for decades. We've been told justice delayed is justice denied. The Progressive Empowerment Party advocates for a speedy justice statute that gives the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Director of Public Prosecutions and the courts responsibility for returning human rights and civil liberties to our justice system. We suggest that 24 hours from arrest to charge. We believe that an arrest should not be part of the investigation process and that police should have enough sufficient evidence to warrant the removal of someone's liberty before they arrest them. The Progressive Empowerment Party believes, like most first world countries, that if you have sufficient evidence to deny someone their essential liberty, then you should already be well on your way to proffering a charge. If you cannot charge within 24 hours, you should be made to release. In certain cases where there are extremes, officers of the law should be allowed to apply to judges in chambers for an extension up to 72 hours. Officers that abuse the privilege or who arrest needlessly that never becomes a charge should lose the privilege. Human rights and civil liberties are a cornerstone of our democracy. A speedy justice statute states 24 hours from arrest to charge or release, 6 months from charge to begin prosecution or release. 5 years for criminal matters in court, 3 years for civil matters, or the case collapses. The judges have a responsibility to case manage and not have our cases wandering on aimlessly for years and decades. We need to bring justice back to our justice system. Human rights and civil liberties are cornerstones of a democracy, and the Progressive Empowerment Party advocates for a speedy justice statute that leaves none of our people victimized by a justice system that is blaming incompetence on a backlog as a reason for more incompetence and a backlog. If we cannot arrest and charge based on evidence, do not arrest and charge. If we cannot mount a case within 6 months of the arrest, do not attempt to prosecute. And if we cannot case manage a criminal matter in 5 years, we shouldn't be sitting in judgment of anybody. It is time that this country functioned as a first world nation. It is time that we used our abilities and our knowledge and the assets available to us to create a developed nation out of whatever this is. I am Philip Edward Alexander. This has been 3 minutes to a better TNT.
And we are back. Akil Camps was or is supposed to join us, but he may be running a little bit late, so I don't know, I guess I will open.
Hurry.
Oh. He's here.
Pressure this morning, girl. Pressure this morning. I really thought, watch me. When I hear Philip say the countries are shit out, he was just saying that. But
explain.
Since this whole sewer issue we encounter in the Beatam first, and then on the walkabout in Samoa, and next sewer issue, so I started to ask questions, and from the video, people started to call. People started to say about a sewer issue in St. Augustine. They started to say about our next sewer issue in Aranguez. And then I started to do some investigation. And it's over how much years we have in sewer issues. At one point we had sewage flowing into the Caroni River for months. Right? So like it's a recurring problem, or as Philip say, we really living in a shithole.
A literal
cesspit. So you can't just go around the country just so, and we going on walkabouts, we putting ourselves at risk. I had gears up.
So this is your gear. No, well, I guess this is what you'll have to wear now.
Well, I take off the gloves. I had my gloves too, but I had gears up because today we're supposed to meet with WASA on the site in Samoa to try to tell them how to do their job. Because the kind of... Let me don't curse, Lord, stop me. The kind of excuses they're giving us. They have to order pipe. WASA is a water company. A water company, people. Dealing with pipe, they have to order a length of pipe. And they might be able to fix the problem till Easter.
What would have happened if you didn't raise this issue though?
There are people living next to that sewage problem, don't know that going on there. That's to tell you how the country blind. People, we have to stop ignoring these things and know it when we make reports. We call WASA, they delay us, they say, well, you have to call this department, you have to call that one, and there's a whole run around. But we can't continue, we can't take that and just leave it and decide we're not going to report issues. Oh gosh, I come in here, I try to put a little comedy to the whole thing, but it's damn serious thing going on in the country. I call EMA about the same issue. The first response, well, you know there's a WASA issue. I say, okay, I reported it to WASA, they're doing nothing about it, so I'm calling you all now. Well, WASA have to deal with that. I say, stop right there. I ain't gonna lie, since I joined the PP, my attitude towards dealing with this kind of stupidness changed.
Yeah.
I say, stop right there. The EMA is Environmental Management Authority. You all are responsible for the environment. If WASA is not fixing a problem that is interfering with our rivers, and polluting, and interfering with our health too, because the rivers, as I said before, farmers use the water to water the plants. They have to deal with the issue.
Yeah.
But the problem is, EMA is public. WASA is public. So what they're gonna do? Charge himself. But I deal with the next issue in Indigo Martin, the partner government primary school. There's a water leak right near to the fence. So it looked like it was on the verge. Call WASA, they called me back 2 days after, Mr. Camps, the leak is inside the school, the principal have to deal with that. I say, so why you all can't, well, our backhoe can't get in there. I say, oh, so it could only fix with a backhoe, right? So what, the principal will break down. I say, oh gosh, the school is a public school, WASA is a public entity. Help out the school and fix the damn leak, please. What's so hard in that? WASA had so much work, they can't do that? I vex now. Run that video in the beatum there, Master Control. Run that video. Only watch what's going on in the beatum. Watch what's going on in the beatum. It's total madness.
What are you going to chopping now?
Did you get it?
5 months now we facing this problem.
Put it up.
I'm going for sure.
Put it up.
5 months now.
Come and take it in good. Put it up in.
I can't cook inside of my kitchen. I can't even live here right now. I'm not staying here. I'm not staying here. 5 months now. I have to leave, no disrespect. I can't live here. 5 months now. This is what we facing 5 months now.
What are you going to chopping now?
Did you get it?
5 months now we facing this problem.
Put it up.
I'm going for sure.
Put it up.
5 months now.
Come and take it in good. Put it up in.
I can't cook inside of my kitchen. I can't even live here right now. I'm not staying here. I'm not staying here. 5 months now. I have to leave, no disrespect. I can't live here. 5 months now. This is what we facing 5 months now.
What are you going to chopping now?
Did you get it?
5 months now we facing this problem.
Put it up.
I'm going for sure.
Put it up.
5 months now.
Come and take it in good. Put it up in.
I can't cook inside of my kitchen. I can't even live here right now. I'm not staying here. I'm not staying here. 5 months now. I have to leave, no disrespect. I can't live here. 5 months now.
So we are back. Akil, you want to tell us about what we just saw in that video there? You want to talk to us about it?
You want to talk shit? That's what we talking here. Because that is shit on two sides. Literally. How it is we could have people. Now, we inquired with WASA, the caretaker for Sawa, Barataria, inquired with WASA about this beatum issue. Because she's dealing with the issue by the bridge in Sawa. And she asked them about this issue. And we were informed that the sewer lines running under these houses in the beatum. You living on top shit, basically. Now, immediately when I heard that, I started to investigate whether how beatum was formed. If it was a planned area development, or if it was squatting, or whatever the case may be. Because to me, how it laid out, it looked like it has some kind of planning towards it.
Yeah.
Okay? So I still didn't get that full information. I get the impression because before it was beatum, they used to call it, had a nickname called rat tongue, right? While in the search now, I just happened to click on Wikipedia to see what Wikipedia have about the Beatum Gardens, right? Master Control, pop that clip for them there. I'll talk while the clip on. And Wikipedia, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing what you're going to read there now.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have it in front of me to read it. If you could pull it up there. But it's like we know the situations that these people living in, the conditions, and yet still everybody's talking about it. They go in parliament, they talk about it. You hear Hines make his comments. He went down and he doing theater to fool the people. You understand? And it's crazy. It's crazy. You can't have people living on top of a sewer main. And if it is they started squatting and they went on top the pipe, well, oh gosh, we know it. You, Wassa, knows it have a sewer line there and sees people going to squat on the line. Well, do something and stop them now. Because at some point in time, that pipe is going to get old. It's going to have to change. You're going to do some kind of
So
work.
that means this pipe has not been fixed or repaired or touched since the squatters went
Listen
down.
to me. Everything I get on this so far, in 2016, CNC3, right? CNC3 did a story. Master Control cannot find the story, right? You're seeing where they talk about cesspit sewer problem, right? You're seeing pictures. You're seeing a lady pointing in her yard showing you where the water flowing out of the yard, right? And yet still, nothing done. January 2018, Newsday did a report, right? About the same sewer issue, sewer coming up in people's house and pouring out, and the woman can't cook and she can't live there and she getting irritation on her skin and that kind of thing. Come now, we go on our walk, as you see in the video, to see the same shit going on. What is going on? Where's the EMA? Where's the Ministry of Health? Where's OSHA? Kariri have a department kind of dealing with it a little bit too, right?
But isn't that kind of the problem though? We have a lot of state agencies dealing with, how to put this? We have a lot of state agencies to deal with issues, yet when it comes to time for somebody to be responsible and accountable, is never anybody. Oh, that's not OSHA, that's Kariri. That's not Kariri, that's EMA. That's not EMA, that's WASA. That's not WASA, and that's how we go. And we keep pointing the fingers back in circles. We saw it on the Maracas Beach. When it came time to find out who gave permission, all of a sudden nobody was the one. It wasn't me. And that's what we do. We pass the buck.
And this,
we pass the buck until they end up in.
3 weeks before that video, when we did the walkabout, one of the residents was saying that they had a meeting with the ministers, with the minister Lehunt, with I think Hines was there, whoever else, right? About that issue again, because they had conversations with them already about it. So it's not like the ministries and the government itself don't know about it. They know about it. Right. Now the solution. What's the solution? Obviously the solution is to move the people off of the line and fix it.
That's too simple.
What, you go give 5, 10, 15 people houses somewhere else? That will cost the taxpayers money. What the hell the $400 million for the highway going through the Aripo Savannas is not money that we don't need to spend? And destroying the environment? So one destroying, you don't want to spend to fix it. You're going to spend to destroy. Oh gosh, what is really going on in Trinidad and Tobago? How much longer will you sit by and say, well, that had nothing to do with me. I'm not involved in politics. I don't vote. I don't do this. Right? And this what's going on is yourself. Is yourself going to feel the thing? Because look what's going on in China. For all we know, that disease started because of this same shipping is going on here now. That the conditions are a little worse in China, and that disease was created. However, it happened anyway. That could happen to us, and then it have a trickle-up effect, and it will come to you in your Goodwood Park house. You understand?
And that's another problem. We like to believe that because it does not affect me now, that it never will. And this might seem completely unrelated now, but right before the break, right before you came on, I was talking about the fact that we have no money for the Calypso competition in Tobago, and there were other couple events this year that we couldn't afford, and I was telling the viewers that it may not seem important now, and it may just seem like, oh, that's just 1 or 2, but these things are slowly, it's an indication of things to come to impact us. It may not impact us now. We don't sing Calypso, we don't have children who want to play Kitty's Carnival in St. James, but it starts off like that, and then soon you hear this, we're not having this anymore, and that company shut down, or this is gone, or pension, oh well, we can't pay pensions anymore.
You can't pay us pensions.
Well, indeed, they can't pay us pensions anymore. Or healthcare, you have to pay for that now, and you're not getting it any better. It's the same crap healthcare that you have to live with. These signs and the indications are there, and the things that don't impact us now, they will if we leave the situation to run like this. Is this the article you wanted to read? The Beetham Estate, on the Beetham Estate from Wikipedia?
Yeah, see, they talk about rat tongue, and they even a certain part in particular,
You have any glasses?
they took it out. It's not on this one, where they said that look at here. They say the Beetham is a clear example of environmental discrimination. Wikipedia say that.
You want me to read that full line? Formerly a slum called Rat Town. I did not know that.
I didn't know either.
Formerly a slum called Rat Town, the community has evolved as a residential area, but is still rife with systematic violence and is a clear example of environmental discrimination.
How I would like, I mean, if government never saw this and they see it now, they read it now, they should feel ashamed. Every government for the last how much years should feel ashamed of that. Because me being in government, being in a position where I could change that narrative, would have made it my duty to change that narrative. Right?
It's also very sad because I'm reading the next line where in 2008 to 2009, the government then led by Patrick Manning would have constructed the 1.2 meter high wall to block them off when we had the summit of the Americas.
Exactly.
And I will never forget that incident, and I'll never forget the uproar it created, because I think that was the last time anything was done that I can recall in terms of uplifting the Beetham from a state point of view. And the thing is, it wasn't even done for the residents.
I'm not going to say that.
It wasn't done to say, here, Beetham residents, here, you have a new wall. That wall was actually done to block them and hide them, hide the shame of our country. And I will never forget that, like I say, because it told me something as a child. I was a child at that point. It told me that, I'm not a child, a young adult, it told me that our country is not one that deals with, that helps poor people. We're ashamed of them, we're embarrassed by them, but help them, we're not about helping. Give them a handout. Come and work for me for election time for a jersey and a cup of a soft drink and a plate of food. Come and do that.
I'll give you some crumbs.
And I'll give you some of the crumbs. But in terms of giving you something to
tangible,
not just tangible, but in terms of giving you real opportunity, long lasting opportunity, giving you a chance to develop yourselves and your children and to think about posterity. We don't do that for the poor people in Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, we look at them like a stain. We treat our Beetham and Laventille residents like a stain on our society, not realizing that it was a stain that we not only created through corruption and mismanagement and allowing all of these things to fetter so that it impacted the poorer class and made them poor. We're not looking at that. In fact, we're embarrassed about it. I mean, we turn our eyes away from it and we build walls, like I said, to hide it.
I remember one year they did over most of the roofs for free, I believe. Yeah, but that was politics at play there. That was around election time, I believe, if I remember clearly.
I think if any government was really interested in redeveloping the lives of the Beetham residents, the money that we spent on President's House, the money that we spent on the Red House, and the money that we spent on highways to nowhere, and the money we're about to spend to build an airport that sees less visitors than an island smaller than Trinidad, aka St. Lucia, we would have taken that money and invested it in redeveloping the lives of residents of Beetham. And the fact that they have to live in the conditions, Aki, that you're describing, it's, again, they say watch how a country treats the most vulnerable, and clearly the way we treat ours says a whole lot. Anything more to add in this? I do want to add callers, viewers, that we will be taking calls in this segment. I know some of you are very anxious to call. I was about to say that around 7:30 we will open the lines. I see it's 7:28. So in a little bit, feel free to call in, voice your opinions on anything that we spoke about this morning. We did touch on a good bit for those who would have joined us from the start. For those just joining us, I am here with Akil Kams, who is the head of the North Hub for the Progressive Empowerment Party. He led a walkabout in the area of Samoa on Sunday. Samoa Rangwes? Barataria. Samoa Barataria. And since then, because he raised an issue of a sewage leak, and since then he has been contacted, flooded, as we can see, flooded metaphorically with shit. And since then, people are reaching out, and I was watching the developments on the thread between yourself and the other members of your North Hub, and it's clear that people seem to think that the Progressive Empowerment Party is the new government or the new opposition, because the issues that are being raised, I remember receiving a call, this is totally off tangent, a call from a woman who about 3 weeks ago, her husband was incarcerated and they kept deferring his hearing, and it's been over a year that he's been locked up, and every time he has court, there's no judge or no police, or they're just not bringing him to court. And I mean, the fact that she called me and she called the Progressive Empowerment Party means that she sees the government and the opposition as incompetent, as failures. And I think about it now, what is the UNC doing right now in opposition? I'm seeing PEP in the field, knee deep in shit.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm seeing the PEP doing that. And I'm seeing us reaching out to residents and calling state agencies to get things fixed. Doing this on a shoestring budget to add. What is the UNC doing? Doing this on no money to add. What is the UNC doing, and what are they responsible for? And if you can't turn to your state government and you can't turn to your opposition, who do you turn to? Right. And what would be the case for people if there were no PEP?
Exactly. I want to read something here. The caretaker for Samoa Barataria actually dealing with WASA directly with that leak into the river. And she was told by the manager that they were aware of the sewage situation almost 5 months. I think I mentioned that last time. And they placed an order, which I also mentioned, for the pipes, because during the flood in September last year, the lines were washed away, but they were old and corroded, right? She could not give her answer, the lady, to when they could meet to deal with it. But anyway, we insisted that we have a meeting there, which hopefully it's going to come through today, and help them to find some temporary solution before they actually fix it in April, I think, when they get any pipes. Pipe. Who's the pipe lady again? Anyway, that's a different topic. Yeah, so I mean, it's really crazy how we make excuses to avoid a challenge, because I mean that pipe is going to be a challenge, because Someone told me, I don't know how true it is, that that problem existing for years. Now, I kind of believe him, because if you saw the pics and the video of that leak, the sewer pipe is actually halfway between the riverbed and the underneath of the bridge, right? And that's not much height to give clearance, so when it have flood waters. So I could just imagine that every rainy season when that river comes down, if that pipe is in place, it's going to get damaged. So it's possible that every rainy season that pipe breaks out and is fixed. Breaks out again, is fixed again. And that has been going on, and they decided probably not to fix it this time because they're going to break out again when the floods come down.
We have a call. Caller, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
I want to find out, well, I see you doing homework on Pitch Lake. So I want to find out to get some homework done on the national quarry, if it's privatized or if it's government owned. And who making the money out of the national quarry?
I feel like the guy in that video that I showed this morning, I have no idea. These are questions. You know, as citizens, we can submit freedom of information requests into these things. Any state agency, they should be, or they are governed by laws that subject them. Well, they are governed, subject them to the FOIA laws. So you as a citizen, you know, you can apply to ask for this information, right? I think we lost him there, but I will speak to him off air. As citizens, just like we did with UDICOT, and just like we proposed to do with the Pitch Lake, we as citizens can ask and write using the official FOIA document, which can be downloaded off of Google, to ask these state agencies these questions, because I mean, it's our right to know.
Exactly.
And the fact that you can ask a question like that and we have no idea, it says plenty. It says that we have, not only as citizens, been very lazy, because it's weird that after all of this time, international documentaries, hearing that roads are being paved all over the globe, it's weird that we have no idea how much money this makes. 10 million tons, the man said. 10 million tons of pitch being mined.
And they can't pay the workers now, they want to shut down. How that doesn't ring bells in some of your heads?
Again, the small signs that people would ignore, because that don't affect me. I don't work on the Pitch Lake. I'm not impacted. I'm not from Labrie.
So they ignore it.
But the roads that not working, but the roads that are in a deplorable condition, those are things that we ignore. Not understanding that corruption and mismanagement at the LATT organization is what is most likely impacting the fact that we have such poor roads in Trinidad and Tobago. The fact that we can boast that we are paving roads all over the globe, but yet right here leading up to the very Pitch Lake that produces the tar and the pitch to do this, the fact that those are so poor,
sad.
It's very, very sad.
I had to stop using that word.
Sad. I feel like I used it a lot in this show, because everything so far that I had
I think
talk
I'm beyond
about.
sad, but I keep saying sad, angry, so I'm pissed about it.
And I think that is where we need to get to. We need to not just be, because a lot of us still stuck, you're right, a lot of us still stuck in the sad phase. Like, you know, it's real sad that it's happening, or it's unfortunate, or wait, that real bummy boy. But again, it's not directly impacting us, or so we think. So we go about ignoring the issue. But when you get angry, it's when you tend to find people wanting to do something about it.
Something I want to ask before you continue. We were talking about the freedom of information, to sending the requests. Just for the public to know, is there a cost to that?
There is no cost attached, unless the documents that you are requesting is in a format other than print, I believe. Once you're requesting a document, so like if you're requesting us the information on a CD, they may ask you to pay for the cost of a CD, which is maybe what, $5 or whatnot. Okay. But once you're asking for information, printed information, there is no cost attached to it.
And the form, the request, there's a specific request form that you have to print or put
there is a specific request form. Just go on Google and type in FOIA Trinidad. And the Freedom of Information Act will come up, and you click on it.
The reason why I ask this question, Trinidad and Tobago, is because we want to educate you all so you all could do your part also. Alright? If 1 million people send a Freedom of Information Request Act to find out stuff on the Pitch Lake, for instance.
Yeah.
They have to answer.
They have
legally,
to.
They have to
and actually,
answer.
I wanted to do that for the Utica issue. The second link is the ttconnect.gov.tt, and it tells you the entire process that you have to go through, and it gives you the official form that you can access to, well, fill out and submit your Freedom of Information request.
And as you said earlier, anybody could send a request.
Anybody. Once you are a citizen of the
Trinidad
Republic of Trinidad and Tobago,
right?
So,
don't say, well, you can't do nothing about this, you can't do nothing about that. You could. You could ask questions, you could send these requests. We could force change in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not saying vote PEP to get the change.
I am saying that. I am saying vote PEP to get the change.
We could force whoever is there to make the change. We could force them to make the change.
And force them to answer.
Yeah.
That's the next thing, because had we not raised this issue to UDICOT on the cost of the president's house, two things would not have happened. One, they would not have had to put out that crazy list that the prime minister had to put out. And two, citizens would have gone on their merry business not understanding what $500 million means in terms of dollars and cents, because that's something I realize we are incapable of understanding. The difference between $1 million and $1 billion and trillions, which is the money that has passed through this country. We are asking specifically, don't just tell us this company was given $50 million to do electricals. We want to know what that electrical works, what did it consist. Don't tell us that you got a $30 or $40 million contract to put in elevators. We want to know how many lifts you put in. We want to know what these lifts are outfitted with. Is it that they're bulletproof? Is it that like
the separation in material and the labor cost?
Separation of material, and we need to know, because it's easy to write a nice figure there and say this costs this, but we need to also understand how it costs this, because I, as head of finance, I have a 5-quote system actually, where I used to work before. The company I used to work before was a 3-quote system. You need to get 3 quotes before you actually approve a budget, because one thing might cost, depending on what you're doing, you might have one company charging less in terms of labor, but you're paying more in terms of equipment. So you have to look and compare, and also look at who is OSHA approved, who is safe to work, store approved, to make sure you're working with the best and most competent companies. As it is right now, on that list of companies that the president put out, some of them don't even have a Facebook or a website page. So I'm trying to understand things like being store certified and being OSHA certified. Is that something that we can expect? And then if that's the case, doesn't that point, if the case is that they don't have these certifications, is it that we can now point to the fact that these are random companies being created out of nowhere. And this is why we have the FOI. This is why we are asking the questions. This is why we are asking UDCOT and its chairman. And since the Prime Minister decided to chuck himself in and jump in the melee, we are asking you as well, Keith Christopher Rowley, what and how much did we spend on each individual contractor in terms of labor, in terms of equipment, in terms of the cost of the service, and over what period of time? Because it's almost impossible to believe that this was just the work done within the past couple of months of $500 million.
Crazy. But tomorrow is the deadline.
Tomorrow is the deadline for UDCOT to answer our FYA. Tomorrow is the 21st of February, which is also 30 days exact from the date that UDCOT had accepted and noted our request. So, TikTok.
I had, after we published that, contractors, because I do also contracting work, actually came to me and say, that's my field, and I really waiting to see that breakdown, that scope of works and everything, because and they're laughing because they know they the field, and they know, and they probably have inside information, because air conditioned men will work with other air conditioned men, so the talk will spread around.
I think the biggest indicator that something was wrong or maybe wrong in this UDCOT, not just UDCOT, but in the construction or refurbishment of all three, the cottage, the President's House, and the Red House, is that we still have contractors to this day complaining that they haven't been paid. So how is it that, not the contractors, the subcontractors, so UDCOT contract the work to Unicom, who then subcontracted it out to other companies, and some of these smaller companies are saying, but boss, we getting stiffed, we didn't get our money yet. So who actually collected the sum or the lump of this $500 million?
That also affects costs. At some point in time, I was having a discussion with someone, and he said, well, register your business with the ministry, and know you do good work and thing, and I will send some jobs your way in a kind of form. And I told him, I said, no, I really prefer not to work for the government. Yeah. And one of the reasons for that was, no payment is an issue, right? Now, the only way to overcome that is actually take one job. Okay, so let's say my first job, and I know, okay, it's 100,000. I'm going to charge $1 million for that job, right? Now, the $1 million, of course, somebody going to have to get a cut inside.
Yeah.
And then the rest now would allow that when I get the startup fee, it basically covers the job, and I could wait a year for the rest of the money. So once I cross that period now, then I have money to play with. So I could take more jobs, because then I know I have to wait for the money. And which I don't understand, because if you're going to do a project, and okay, cool, the project is going to cost $1 billion, right? You already have money assigned to certain things. Now I know it has some logistics, however, the money change and whatever, but it should be different to enable a contractor to not kick up his price too much to compensate for the late collection of money. Right? I might just be talking off the cuff here.
What did Keith Rowley say? I went to the Prime Minister in 2003 and told him there was massive bid rigging in UDCOT. His words, not mine. Exactly. So, UDCOT, when you want to send your pre-action letters, I'm repeating the words of the Prime Minister, who himself said that he heard there was massive bid rigging.
10 times worse than the airport scandal.
10 times worse! I know he went on and on and on about it. But now that he's in the hot seat, and now that we are raising the questions, I guess we pelting stones at landing on his house. So he's not happy about that. But I wanted to say something on that just absolutely just completely slipped my mind. But I do want to remind callers that if you want to call in, we have just under 15 minutes left on the show. If you would like to reach out to us, you can call us on Digicel number 347-4737. We also take in WhatsApp calls because I'd like to point out that the last call we just got was a WhatsApp call. So if you want to call us on WhatsApp, you have no credit on your phone, we will take the WhatsApp calls too, because this is 2020. We're not letting telecommunication keep us back. We have more than one way to get onto the program. So you can call us on 347-4737, or what is that number? 684-9107. 9107. You have a mobile phone, you don't want to waste your credit calling or run up your postpaid bill calling a Digicel, you call 684-9107. We'll take your calls to discuss anything that we would have spoken about this morning on air. Akil, what's next for the North Hub?
Alright, well, we're working on this issue with this sewer, because we see this.
Is this now your job? It seems like this is now your job. I mean, apart from the get up this morning, it seems like fixing WASA issues.
Well, surprisingly, I had a month or 2 months ago, I had a discussion with a WASA individual because I placed a request for a rebate on my bill sometime in 2017, right? Because where I live, we get water twice a week, and sometimes 3 weeks gone, a month gone, no water. Now I put enough tanks to have, if I stretch, 3 weeks availability of tank water.
Yeah.
So I mean,
if you don't mind me asking, how many tanks is that?
That I make 1,800 gallons. I kind of make that work, but as if I know or I have a feeling that the
not gonna go.
be getting some issues.
You can imagine how much money those tank companies making in this country. Anyway, go ahead.
I even have, once rain falling, I save because I collect in my roof water. And
don't let WASA hear that.
I'm not trusting WASA. No, I'm paying a bill.
I know they say don't let, but you know WASA thinks they own that water too. Once it's falling from the sky. Okay, nice.
But here the issue. So this guy calls. I forget his name. I think it's sometime last month, and he's like, Mr. Camps, I'm calling from WASA. I see you having a request for a rebate from 2017. Now, from returning his voice, I had the impression, I said, oh, so I'm now claiming for not receiving water in 2017. I say, excuse me, I made that request in 2017, right? So don't talk to me like if I now making a request for back 2007. He said, well, I now got it on my desk. I said, well, I am shocked. I'm shocked. Not that the fact that he now get it, that the fact that he get it at all. Right? So I say I am pleasantly shocked. Right? So he goes about and he say, what rate do you pay? I say, wait, hold up right there. I say, it don't matter if we have the lowest rate in the whole Caribbean. I don't care about that. I paying for 2 days water, apparently. If I don't get that means I'm not getting what I paid for.
Yeah.
So don't tell me we have the lowest rate. Stop right there. Kill that dead conversation one time. Right? So, and then I proceed. I say, before we go further, I just want to let you know I'm a member of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and we out to fix what's going on here now. So I just want to give you a heads up on that because
did his attitude and tone change after that?
Yes, he was a little different.
I realize saying that is that get you some leverage in this country.
No, because people know they can't play with us.
Yeah.
They can't play with the Progressive Empowerment Party because we're not here to play and we're not here to take shit.
Imagine if we had given $500, how much sooner he would have gotten.
Well, let me don't go.
Your request.
Let's don't go there. I was telling him, I say, I understand that it's not everybody is lackadaisical, and some people are doing or trying to do their jobs in the public service. Well, in this case, WASA. And I also understand that sometimes you go in with a good heart, ready to work, ready to perform, and then when you call for things, okay, I need a pipe like the pipe that they had to fix up the road. The engineer could really want to go fix that urgently and get in a damn run around to get materials to go fix it, or the truck break down, the hoist smash up, right? And it's always some kind of foolishness like that. So you reach a point, you're frustrated, you can't do nothing about it, so you say, well, me, I just go to work and whatever happened, I had to collect my salary, I had to live. And people can't tell me that's not the case with some people, because it is. We frustrate people into that way of thinking, and it's like a culture now.
It is.
Yeah. And it's wrong. We have young people going into these establishments. I know of one lady in particular went landed survey, and the work ethic in there, I shouldn't know anyway. The work she wanted to work and couldn't work. So she like a horse on the track, and the rope holding her back, and she just can't run, can't get nowhere. She didn't stick around there, she left. I can't do that either. I like to be active. I know my job is to fix pipes. I on the road, I fix it by looking for pipe. Before it even break, it look like it wants to break, I'm gonna fix it.
I remember what I wanted to say earlier, and I have never repeated this story to anybody besides my mom maybe. And at the time I didn't understand what it was, but now that I am older, now that I am a member of the Progressive Empowerment Party, now that I see how corruption just infiltrates every level, I understand how I could have been a totally different person than I am today. And maybe wrong, I was about 20, just out of high school. I was in UE at the time, maybe a year 2 or year 1 people, and someone that I knew from, they used to have a lot of parties in New York and a lot of young promoters, and I was friends with one of them, and he was telling me about a job opportunity. Now remember, you're young, you're still going to school, you're not working yet, but you want your own cash other than the allowance that you're getting from your parents to do things. So he told me of a job opportunity, calling no names and not even calling the ministry, and it turned out to be one of the ministries in our republic. And I used to like, I did events. Events is one of the things that I do. So managing and coordinating events, I love doing it. And I was offered the opportunity to come on board as an event coordinator under this ministry. And an event coordinator, I sat down in just one or maybe 2 meetings. And in the meeting itself, what they were describing then, I now understand as a way that they steal and thief money, basically. They were asking me, or asking the committee, to come up with or they had come up with a program. Let's call it live sport. It was not live sport. I'm saying that outright, it was not live sport. But it's something similar to like a live sport, where it's an event where you're bringing down, it's being marketed as such a positive thing for the country. Yet they were telling me things like, because I was asking, how am I actually making money? I didn't understand the money making part. And the person who brought me in spoke to me afterwards, and he was saying, because they never mentioned like a coordinator's fee or anything. Right. They were saying, no, you bring in your people to do the job, and let's say they're charging you X amount, you could probably raise the price a little bit, and the rest would be your cut. Right. Again, I didn't really understand how that was supposed to work. I never went back, because that opportunity, you can call it, ended up falling through. But it was my first taste of how things are done in the public service. I'm not saying that this is how it works in all. That was my experience, my personal experience, but I was told. I was one of the people who didn't get involved, and I don't think the program ended up going anywhere. But it was it's how normal he said it, and how calmly and casual he just threw it around, where, you just bring in your people and you charge your fee and raise the price, and you get to understand, if this is what is happening throughout our public and state services, then you could understand why we're spending so much money but not seeing the results of it. Why it is we have budget time and budget readings, yet public servants on strike and teachers begging for their salaries and
May I
stuff
ask you
like that.
something? The people you're bringing in is to do what you thought you were going to be hired to do?
The people that I was bringing in, no. They were coming in to provide a service. So say the project was, and a little hazy about what the project was about. I remember the ministry, still not calling the ministry's name. I remember the project, it was supposed to involve planning an event. And I was to bring in my own decorator, for example, or I was to bring in my own stage coordinator, and they would bill the ministry, but I would have the discussion with them.
So how the ministry was hiring you?
Through that colleague who...
No, not that. That's not what I'm asking. If somebody hired me to do a job, they say, well, your salary will be X amount. So you were getting a salary, and then they would...
That's it. I was not getting... I was brought in to... You want to make some extra money? That's how it was. And again, young, excited, of course. And I sat down in this meeting and I'm hearing about the project and I didn't understand how exactly I was going to make money, because the ministry wasn't hiring me as a project coordinator or anything. They were using me to get people that they needed. They already had their own coordinators, but I would get the stage manager or the sound guy, and I will speak to them and they would adjust their prices, and whatever extra would be mine. That's how it was sold to me.
So
it wasn't sold to me like that.
Middleman.
Like a middleman. That is who I was. I was supposed to be like a middleman, charging my own price. Well, getting them to charge a price, but throwing in my little, I guess, referral fee.
So let me ask a question. Now, if they had hired you and let's say they pay you $6,000 a month, right? You now would not have to add a fee onto these suppliers or whoever it is course, which would have probably bring down the whole cost of the arrangement, because if you are not an honest person.
Exactly. And I thought that from the beginning. I mean, we have 1 minute left for the show, but I remember thinking that at the time, and I was asking my colleague who brought me in. I said, why not just hire me to do the job? Why hire me to contract or subcontract the job to other people to then inflate the price to then get why do I have to get my money under the table like that? That didn't sit well with me, and like I say, I don't think the project ended up panning out. Or maybe it did and I just wasn't involved. I was asking too many questions, because I was that person in the room who was asking a million questions.
Well, I'm glad you didn't, because you might have been a different person.
I know, my life, I think at that moment, and I now understand, my life could have gone in a completely different tangent. I see that same colleague now, who is no longer a colleague. I see him benefiting from what is obviously his involvement in certain state contracts. But you know what? I would happily make my money.
Well, it's coming close to 8. So we're looking to wrap up.
It is 8 o'clock, 8:01 to be active.
I had to go back out there, possibly pass through the Beatum, pass in St. Joseph. And, I mean, we gotta be safe, right? So you're dealing with a shitty situation. So Tobago, gears up and be prepared, because besides the coronavirus, we have a lot of shit to deal with out there.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Felicia.
Stay safe. Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education, and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us. Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us,
so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it.
anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDCOT on why the renovations of the President's house cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go?
We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones, and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption.
Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
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 I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.